Okay. Tom, unless there is something, are you okay with item number 1 as a consent item?
Yeah, and Ms. Han's okay? Is there a deputy here?
They were invited.
But no problem? Good. So this would be good for you support number 1. You want a yes vote? Yes vote. Okay, I move.
Okay,
Okay, whatever you say.
great. And we'll just
Okay.
get, okay. Let's go on item number 2, just to get a status report. Mr. Lefton?
Item number 2 is the DOT report relative to the operation of the Dodger Shuttle service for the 2009 baseball season.
You found a pot of gold right there outside of Dodger Stadium.
I didn't bring it with me.
Yeah.
Jim Lefton with the Department of Transportation. This is a follow-up to a presentation by the department at the peak meeting on November 21st of 2008. And just in terms of quick background, as you recall, the department provided the Dodger Shuttle for the last 2 months of the 2008 baseball season. The purpose of the project, the program was as a pilot, basically to demonstrate whether there's a demand for the service. We found that there was. We provided about 700, on average, 700 passengers per game. That compares
700?
per game. That compares to about 400 per game in 2004 when the Dodgers provided the service.
I'm sorry, if she said it was 400 when the Dodgers did and 700 now?
Correct. The Dodgers provided in 2004. Some differences between then and now. Obviously, gas prices have gone up significantly, as well as parking prices, so that may have contributed to the increase in ridership. The total cost to operate the pilot service for the 2008 season was $150,000. That includes the playoffs, and it was significantly higher than the estimate that we provided originally of $70,000, in part because the ridership was significantly higher than we anticipated, so we had to run more buses. And then the Dodgers made the playoffs. We ran service during the playoffs as well.
It's good news, bad news, yeah.
Good news, bad news, correct. The department has been meeting with the Dodgers and MTA and the council offices a number of times since the end of the 2008 season to talk about the service, and we've come up with some potential changes in routing. But the major challenge that we're facing, obviously, is funding. At the November committee meeting, some questions were raised to go back to the Dodgers in terms of their willingness to fund the service as well as to fund the cost overage for the 2008 season. The Dodgers have indicated that they're not willing to fund the service or the cost overrun. The department, in looking for a way to try to find a way to make this work, took a lead role working cooperatively with the Dodgers to go out and try to find sponsors to help pay for the service. We've been working with our marketing consultant and trying to identify potential sponsors for about close to 3 months now, and we've not been able to identify a sponsor willing to help fund the service. With the economy being what it is, advertising and sponsorship dollars are have been significantly reduced, and so we've not been able to identify a sponsor to help pay for the service. Given the current financial situation that we're in particular with Proposition A, which has gotten markedly worse in the last month or so with the most recent estimates from UCLA on Prop A local return revenues, as well as the state eliminating state transit operating assistance. We're looking at a shortfall now of about $260 million over the next 10 years. So we're at a point now where we're going to have to look at potentially canceling whole programs of our transit program. It's a significant issue that we need to address. But given the shortfall that we're facing, the department's recommendation is unless there are outside sponsorship dollars to help pay for the service, that the city should not use its local dollars to help pay for the shuttle, that the Dodgers should pay for the service if we want the service to operate. And again, at this point, the Dodgers have indicated that they're not willing to do that.
I think the last conversation I had with them when they were looking at finding sponsors as well, and I'd had some conversations with the mayor's office too.
In June, when the council approved the 2-month demo, the Dodgers had committed that if this is approved for the 2-month demo, that they would go out at the end of the season and talk to their sponsors and identify potential sponsors to help fund the service. When we met with them In December, they indicated that they did not want to talk to their existing sponsors. They didn't want to mess with their existing sponsorship arrangements. And they basically told the department that we should take a lead role in identifying sponsorships. The agreement, any sponsorship agreement should be between the city and sponsor. The Dodgers really did not want to take a role in that whatsoever, other than helping to offer potential value to potential sponsors in terms of coverage in the stadium and on the broadcast, things like that. Maybe more recently, they've indicated that since our efforts haven't been fruitful, that they're looking to go out and identify potential sponsors on their own.
So your recommendation is to just receive and file this?
To receive and file, and just to communicate the department's position that unless outside dollars are found, that the city should not run the service using city funds.
Just a question. How much does it cost to ride up there? Free?
The service was free, correct?
Free. What would people pay for it?
I'm sorry?
Would people pay for it?
There would, I'm sure people would pay for it. We discussed that with MTA and the Dodgers, and there was a kind of a consensus feeling that if we were to charge, that we would lose a significant number of riders, that the free attraction helped generate a lot of the ridership. I did some preliminary estimates of how much revenue we would generate if we charged a fare from, say, $1 to $3, and that would generate from roughly $50,000 to $100,000.
How much it cost to run?
The cost to run the service is about $400,000, so there would still be a significant shortfall that needs to be met.
Will you have any of those commuter buses or something?
No, we ran it last year using our charter bus program. We have a company, Transit Systems, that actually ran the service in 2004 and is very familiar with operating the service.
Right, but I'm just thinking we failed then. Whatever the case is, whether we should pay, they should pay, whatever. There's no bus service. I remember the old 177. I remember going to Dodger games, and you'd see it about the 8th inning, 7th inning. They'd all line up out by the gas station, you know, and you knew it was towards the end of the game. And that's a long time ago. We lost the opportunity. So instead of just, maybe just request to the department, at least notify anybody they want to, that we would be cooperative. If Jimmy Johnson Bus Service, or whoever it is, I'm just throwing that name out, or Helen Hunt, whoever the name of the bus service is, wants to, have a shuttle, that we would be spirited and cooperative in creating to do that. That way, everything costs money now. That way it would, at least to say that. If somebody would, just to say that they got buses, and then we would help them say that somehow provide that shuttle at least to the front. If we're really true to try to connect people to Union Station. I looked at the goal line the other day and I said we should have gone, really way west of Broadway to try to get that stop closer, because we don't connect to the stadium. We're the only stadium in America that doesn't have transit connected. I went to the Chargers game last summer in the preseason when took my son, and they have, I think, 18,000 people take that. What's the name of the San Diego, the Jim Mills, what do they call it?
They keep changing the names. Sponsors, Qualcomm.
No, I know Qualcomm. I know the Jack Murphy Stadium, but what's the name of it's not a gold line, it's not a red line, it's
a trolley?
Trolley, San Diego trolley. But it's better than a trolley.
Well, a lot of the newer stadiums, a lot of the stadiums have been old stadiums have been knocked down and rebuilt, and a lot of them are built along a rail line or a major transit corridor. The Dodger Stadium is one of the older stadiums, and it's unfortunately built on a hill that's not really accessible to transit, so that's one of the downsides of where it's located. I
know, but instead of saying, hey, we're failed this year, let's say, why don't we at least got a little while, why don't you just put do you know all the transit agencies in Southern California, the private ones?
We have a charter bus contract. We have
we have other ones that it would just say, hey, is anyone looking for a job? Like we're going through a tough time, so maybe someone would scrape and say, I'm going to try to make a go of it, to figure out that they would charge $1 from Union Station up there and back.
We could do that. The Dodgers could do that. We can inquire whether companies willing to take this on as a business proposal. Right. Again, based on the numbers that I've generated, it would fall far short of what the operating costs would be to provide the service. But we can certainly inquire whether there are.
I think we should require. I'd rather go out fighting.
I think that I think none of us want to say, "Oh, this is done. We're not going to do anything because we're not going to use any city money." I think we've told the Dodgers too. We don't see where there's any source of funding, but I don't think we want to lose the momentum in working with MTA and DOT to see if there's anything. I was joking, of course, about the pot of money you found by the side of the road, but, you know, if we just say it's not going to ever happen, then it won't ever happen. But if there's a way in which to look at and still be creative and push the Dodgers a bit and see that we shouldn't give up. So I think that's where you're going.
Yeah, like, let's say you said, instead of going to Union Station, we had to stop at Chinatown, at College and Spring. So everybody, even if you come in on the Metro, you take the Gold Line, to that stop, and then it shuts your head time. Is that what they call it? What do they call it? What do you call it, Art? Headway time?
Headway is the space between buses, the time between
What do you
buses.
call your time to go from A to B? What do you call that? A to B time?
Run time.
Running time. Your running time would be reduced because you're not coming from Union Station. You're coming from College and Spring. You know, and I don't know, it just may cut the cost.
We had the
You
service
go College-
actually served Union Station and also had intermediate stops along Sunset, and actually virtually everybody boarded at Union Station. But
Right.
the new route that we were looking at actually takes a different routing. Instead of going along Sunset where it gets stuck in traffic, it would kind of go on the back way through Chinatown. So,
But that's College.
right.
College to right there. All right. I'd rather go down with a little more try, even though it's tough times. It's my opinion.
Well, we can.
But I'll revert to the chair, whatever the chair wants to do.
I think so too. I mean, again, I think we've made it clear we don't have any money right now to participate in that part of it, but that we want it. And I know Council Members Reyes and Councilmember Garcetti's office, who border that, Ed representing it, and Ed Eric's, you know, are looking at ways as well if there's any financial services or et cetera. So we can either just hold it in committee and have, you know, come back when we have anything else rather than receiving and filing it.
Yeah, let's have a discussion. And I certainly feel more comfortable if Mr. Reyes' office weighed in on it.
Yeah. That's them.
James.
Okay.
So we'll continue for.
Yep. And just kind of
Just
hold it in
continue, okay.
committee, and we'll let you know when we're going to bring it back. And I know Mr. Rosendahl had some, Laura, I know wanted this, but I think he just wanted to make sure that we didn't have any money that we were putting in, so we're not. So,
He's an Angel fan
no.
of the City of Angels,
Yeah, there you go.
you know, and the City of Angels Treasury.
Okay. Great. Next item.
Item number 3 is Weezer Parks motion relative to the Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority to report on promoting the Gold Line East Side Extension and the impact of increases to transit fares on ridership.
You're up. And I have your public comment card, so I won't forget it soon. We'll have it here from the person.
Hi, good afternoon. Patricia Torres-Bruno with Metro Government Relations. We'd like to give you a brief overview of some of the outreach efforts that our staff is preparing in light of the opening of the Gold Line East Side Extension. Staff is working on some of the following promotional events. First, they plan to have a VIP ceremony event, press conference on the Friday before like a grand opening weekend. And the goal of this event is to start, to generate some press coverage on the opening. And then this event would precede a grand opening weekend, and this weekend would have a lot of events along the line.
Do you have a grand opening date?
We do not have a grand opening date at this time. We're
Do you have an
still
idea?
sometime in June, is what I understand,
This year?
of this year. Yeah, 2009. So we would be working on, putting together events and promotional events along the line for the grand opening weekend. We are intending to allow free ridership on the line for the weekend so that customers can ride the line and enjoy it and see how far they can get along the line, and even be take part in some of the other parts of our system. The staff has also planned to do outreach efforts between May and June of 2009, which includes outdoor advertising, like on our side of our buses, billboards, bus shelters, and all those types of promoting. They're also planning to do print advertising, so on the local newspapers as well as the regional newspapers. They're also planning to do press events and e-marketing. Again, these events are geared toward promoting the line and promoting the opening weekend. After the opening, staff plans to continue promoting the line, and bring it as part of the entire system, and so that people recognize the Gold Line as a larger rail network. And so they're going to continue promoting the line as part of our, total system. And I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Arthur Henry, who's going to talk about some of the public safety outreach that we've done on the line as well.
Arthur Henry, Metro. We have had an extensive and continue to have an extensive safety outreach directed towards students, seniors. We've trained nearly 60,000 students within a 1.5 mile radius of the east side alignment. Besides seniors, we've reached out to hospital medical personnel. We've distributed flyers. We have safety training at area libraries during March and April. We have a safety fair taking place on May 9th at the East LA Civic Center Auditorium.
And I know that the other part was the impact of the increases to transit fares on ridership. That was part of the motion as well. Could either one of you respond to
Well,
that?
with Measure R, the Measure R will freeze fares for all fares for a year. And so I believe that starts from July 2009 until the following year. It also freezes fares for elderly, disabled, and students as well for 5 years. So, in terms of future fare increases, I mean, at least in the near future, that's probably not going to be considered because of the Measure R provisions.
I know in some of the reports I had that after the increase that the ridership declined. Is that still the case, or how are we?
There was a dip right after the increase in the ridership.
What was the fare increase that occurred? How much was that?
Do you have the number?
The base fare stayed the same at $1.25. What increased was the day pass. The day pass went up from $3 to $5 per day, and our weekly and monthly passes also increased.
So, but in our passes, I think if you have a month pass, if the value of the month pass is if you ride 49 times on the rail line, then that's the value of a monthly pass. But if you're use public transit, constantly several times a day, I mean, you're going to use that beyond the 49 times. So that's sort of the thinking behind the.
So it went up $2 a week. No, say that again. It went up. It's the base fare stayed $1.50.
Base fare stayed $1.25.
Oh, 25. Sorry.
It was the day pass for unlimited rides during the day that went up from $3 a day to $5 a day. Now, this fare increase took place July 1 of July 1 of 2007.
2007. So a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And how's the ridership now? I mean,
The ridership on the bus side, when the fare was increased, did decrease. It has, over the last year and a half, has come almost all the way up to where it was before the fare was increased. But over the last several months, it has declined. Starting in about September, it's declined over the last few months.
the bus.
Bus ridership has declined.
And how about subway or light rail?
Rail's up.
Rail has done better, and rail ridership has been up and continues to be higher.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think the reason is that it's declined? And I was reading a study or a newspaper the other day that talked about the fact that ridership had increased nationally.
Mhm.
Why that would change in the bus versus the rail?
I can't give you an official reason. Unofficial people have talked about there was just a greater impact, for example, of the day pass on bus riders than it would have been on rail riders. We aren't exactly, there's lots of conjecture about what that might be, but it's a little unclear. You know, we could speculate that the rail rider is, we had a little difficulty in terms of coming up with precise explanations. You know, there was some difference in, we felt of the impact of the gas prices, but then differentiating bus and rail, it's a little unclear.
And has the MTA board taken this up at all? Do you know?
Well, you mean the impact on ridership?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, actually they did. One of the things that came out of the fare increase was a motion by one of our board members to institute something called the Ridership Relief Transportation Program. And what that does is it allows and provides for coupon subsidies on passes, weekly and monthly passes, for people who meet the federal HUD income guidelines, and if they're not eligible for any other subsidy. So that's been a program that's been marketed extensively through our agencies around the county. And in fact, there was just a board motion last month to extend it to some of our municipal operators.
In addition, we just also, the board approved a program with the community colleges to do a $15 pass for 6 months. So that was also to help
$15 pass?
for 6 months.
So if I were to enroll back in community college, it's only $15?
Yeah, that's right.
How many units you got to take?
How many years is it? I'm sorry.
How many units?
Oh,
12. We have to
12.
say 12, sir.
12 to be
12,
a
okay,
full-time.
good, all right, good. Very much. Call me Tom there, Art.
All right. Do you have any we do have public comment.
I do have a question there on this. Okay, I've tried, I know, and I appreciate it. Remember I was talking to my uncle long past, but I said, what was the challenge during the time of the red car? At the end of the red car's first life, that's the Pacific Electric red car, there was a lot of assignment on the street, right-of-way problems, accidents, etc. There was a push there. I know with the Gold Line extension down First Street, we are right next to the roadway there on that. And it's new. And I know when the Blue Line, which first went in, there was a number of challenges because people were not aware and respected the rail. I think we really have to have in both and all, I say both language, but all languages, an outreach to make people aware of it. And also on the public affairs, I don't see your pen moving. Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, I know that as my colleague here mentioned, there has been some efforts to specifically target the community to bring awareness on safety along the rail lines, and that was part of the program.
Right. I just want to make sure it's real big, because it's a different.
No, it is a big
It's
deal,
different-
and
different.
we
They don't
have
see it.
to,
No.
we do take that very seriously, and we are trying to do that, and that will continue to be part of the
Good.
promotions.
Who's from public affairs here?
What do you mean?
Either of you from public affairs?
Got both from government relations.
Government affairs, public relations, public affairs, same thing, right, Art?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Also, children go to Travel Town in Griffith Park. I represent the area where Griffith Park is in. If I give you my card, I'll make someone aware so you could have a permanent display for safety around rail lines there, so they get that. There used to be a Safe Crossings, I believe it was, or Safe Operation Safe Crossings. Lifesaver. There goes Sean, good guy. Okay, so I'm going to give you, Art, my card. So I want to hear from somebody, because all those children come through there, and there should be a safety message.
At Travel Town.
Yes,
Okay.
and I'll help you get the spot. All right. I'll pass it to the deputy, the second district, to the clerk. Thank you very much. There you go. Okay, thank you both.
Thank you.
We have a couple comment cards, so we may need you back. Manuel Grillo and Esperanza, is that Martinez? Hi, how are you?
How you doing?
Good. We're excited about, in fact,
Yes.
that reminds me, we need to have on the agenda on the Wilshire-only bus lane.
Yes.
An update, because the
Yes.
good news is we got some money.
Yes.
Yay.
And we had
We
called.
never gave up.
Yes.
We never gave up.
And we hope to, have, maybe we can have an event together to figure out how to, it's a big, threshold that has been passed, and that's a very positive thing. So we called your office, so we'll continue.
We talked about it, and I know we don't have a city attorney here, not to tell me I
Okay.
can't say this, so, because it's not on the agenda, but we were in Washington DC, and we had several conversations with, administration officials about this, so we're very
Good.
excited about it.
All right, thank you so much. And again, thanks to this committee for providing a lot of leadership on that issue. And so to get on this issue, I would say we definitely want to present to you a plan that we have, especially particularly for Measure R, that I think could support issues around lower fares, and expanding service in general, and attracting new ridership. But at least some major concerns we have right now around the Gold Line and also fares. It's two things. One is the elimination of Line 31 and the reduction of Line 30 to about 30-minute headways. Waiting time periods. So if you're at the end of the line on Line 30, which stops at Rowan and Cesar Chavez, you would essentially have to walk at least about a good, 3/4 of a mile to get to the next, train stop, which is a big difference. And so I think for us, we're definitely against any reduction of sort of the headway on line 30, and that line 30 and 31 actually is provided direct service to East Los Angeles College, which now essentially gets eliminated. The second thing that that would be good for this committee to explore is the issue of the upcoming elimination of the day pass, particularly the implementation of tap card. Tap card is not bad in itself. It's unfortunately bus riders are being penalized $2 after April for not having the tap card on hand, and so even tourists are going to have to pay now $2 plus the $5 day pass to get on the bus. And so let's say a bus rider who's been used to, let's say, having just a regular day pass will now have to pay $2 if they lose their card or if they just have the culture of throwing away their cards. And so the transition is very short. Basically, from March to April is only going to be the time period they're going to give free pass cards. And the second thing is the student bus pass campaign, which we won a couple of years ago with the help of Jose Huizar when he was at the school board. We were able to win the student bus pass for K-12 at schools. And so now, again, MTA is going back to the old system where students have to apply at MTA at only 4 different sites throughout the whole county. And the great thing about the plan that we won was that, the usage of that pass for students increased by 100%, because it was accessible to them at schools. And so we're very concerned about those two things around fares and the East Side Light Rail.
Yes.
Thank you.
So you all three have a little packet that has a press release of our the BRU Clean Air and Economic Justice Plan, as well as a letter that we wrote to you that we just sent early this week. So we do support a part of this motion that calls on MTA to look into fare reductions. As the MTA prepares itself to receive $700 million from the stimulus package and over $40 billion from Measure R over the next 30 years, they are positioned to take some really bold steps and free up monies to improve the bus system. We are calling specifically for 500 expansion buses. We are calling for a reversal of the 2007 fare increase. The monthly bus pass went up from $52 to $62. That's $10. An extra monthly. The bi-weekly bus pass was completely eliminated, which was also a huge discount for many bus riders. The MTA board can begin making some really bold moves by restoring the $52 monthly bus pass and undoing all the increases approved in 2007. We're also calling for a $150 million program for bus-only lanes. Now that the federal government approved $9 million for the first year, we think we can begin to move forward and develop a concrete plan for a countywide network. And lastly, we are saying no service cuts. We want expansion, not reductions. Councilmember Parks fought last year to protect some of the same lines that are on the chopping block again, particularly line 256 that travels from East LA to Northeast LA. It carries over 2,000 riders, and they're proposing to cut it, and there is no alternative service being proposed. So we are asking the Transportation Committee to write a letter to the MTA, asking them to draft a concrete plan with Measure R funds to make major improvements to the bus system. We believe that the money's coming down, and this is a concrete plan that we can make happen, and we look forward to working with you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just to go up to, yeah, no, I was going to, yeah. If we could have the MTA staff to come back up, I want to ask them a couple questions based on your testimony. Thank you. There was a couple things that they mentioned that have changed from the past. One was the bus passes for the schools and the accessibility to that they were able to purchase them at the schools. Do you know?
I don't have any information. I don't know if you have.
We'd have to get back.
Yeah, we have to
on-
Can you get back? Because I think, again, we all know with kids, it's accessibility and all of that. So if there's a problem with the school district, then we need to go to the school district. If it's with you all, we want to see if we can go back to the program that was adopted previously. And on the biweekly and the TAP program, could you explain on those?
Well, I know the biweekly pass, we went to just the week, we have a weekly pass, we have a monthly pass, and the biweekly was discontinued back then.
For any particular reason?
I'd have to give you a precise
Okay.
reason, I'd have to get
Okay,
back to you.
could you let us know?
I just feel more comfortable we came back with information on that.
Okay, And on the TAP, so those two, and then on the TAP program, as far as if you don't, I'm not sure I'm as familiar as they are about why the $2, as he explained it, the $2 if you don't have a TAP card, but you get your pass. Could you explain that?
Once again, we'll have to get back.
Yeah.
You'll get back to
We
that.
don't have. I don't have it.
Okay. All right, so just for our public speakers, so they are going to come back to us. We will make sure either we'll put it on the calendar or communicate with you all.
How many items
Okay,
you got?
good questions on that. So,
What are the-
yes, Mr.
Yeah, I'd
Roscoe.
just like to add a couple of things before you run. First is, I believe in buses, and I believe in getting more buses, and I actually believe in more bus lanes and all these other things. So I'm hoping with the new executive director that we get a different appreciation of buses. I actually believe that's a quick solution to a lot of our problems than the $1 billion subway to the sea and all these other things, which I'm not against. I'm just saying we can do more with buses than we've done. And so my report back, when you do at some point, is what is the strategy of the new MTA executive director on buses?
You were 6 years old.
And I'd like to have him with his fresh energy coming from Orange County to share with us his policy on buses. We are the biggest bus line in America and one of the most underappreciated in that context. And I'd like to get his sense of where he wants to take that issue. Okay? And a minor one, which has been one I've been bringing up for 4 years, and now with the people's support, I got another 4 years, is I want my rapid bus on Venice Boulevard. It's a boulevard. A lot of people would love to get off the Milk Route, like me, and go downtown occasionally on a rapid bus on Venice Boulevard. All the studies, you can go dust them all up or you can make new ones. Venice Boulevard is awesome. And it is a great opportunity. It's got all the characteristics where the red line had been there to at least have a more effective
car.
bus system. Yeah, red
car.
Give me a rapid bus, would you? And give me a timetable on that one and report back on it. I've been kind for 3 years on this. Art, it's time.
I know as part of the, Councilmember Rosendahl, as part of one of the board items on the agenda for this month at Metro is a report on the bus service improvement program tied into Measure R. And in the list, there is a list in the board report of potential rapid bus lines, and right at the top of the list is Venice Boulevard.
Well,
But it's-
I don't want to have to run for a third term to actually see it happen. I'd like to see it in my second term, okay? And also, would you, from the chair, of course, a formal request that the new executive director come and visit with us
Yes.
and share with him in a public forum everything he's about and where he's going, and so we can kick the tires on him, the new car on the road.
Our new
Question,
bus-
let me ask the question. Why don't we have the committee meeting over in the MTA boardroom? And have a presentation before you cross that bridge
Right.
to the other side of Maine.
Maine.
Right.
Be a good idea.
I
So
thought you
we-
were talking about her becoming
We'll work
controller
with
when
them.
you
Yeah,
said that.
yeah, that's what he is.
Across the bridge.
Oh, I
The
see.
bridge.
Okay, fine.
I hope you didn't read
Get different
that,
offices.
Mr. Rosendahl. You did talk slow
Okay.
like Paul Harvey there.
So what we'll do is receive and file this item. We'll get a report back on those 3 items as well. And maybe what we'll do is have the meeting over there and the presentation by the new executive director as well as the answer to these questions. So we'll be there. Good idea. Okay.
Can I suggest you approve the motion, and then we can, with all the addressing the issues and the request for the CEO?
Yes,
to-
I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's receive and file. So approve the motion. Thank you. Need a little direction every now and then. And gentlemen, if it's okay with you, item 1 will also approve unanimously. That was a consent item that we had.
And if I
So
could,
I think,
item 2.
I think Mr. Rosendahl wanted to say something. Item 2, what we did for both of your knowledge is, say we knew that the city was not putting any money in, but they were continuing it to just continue to have the dialogue. We think having a shuttle is an important thing, but we received and filed. We think it might not necessarily have the same focus, and so we want to just keep it alive as far as the discussion.
Was Howard
But no
Sunken
city.
here?
No.
Nobody from the Dodgers was here?
No.
Okay, is it at all possible within that motion of continuing it to ask them to come before us? And
Invite them if they don't want to, they don't have to.
Pardon me?
If they don't want to, they don't have to, but we ask, what I just asked, instead of there's a program, maybe they shorten the line, go from the College Street station right there for the Chinatown access, but certainly invite them. But if they don't want to
I
come,
think
they
we
don't
should
have to.
officially invite them for a couple of reasons. Let me explain this. First of all, we're all big supporters of the Dodgers. They just cut the deal with Manny. They might as well cut a deal with us. We brought thousands of people to that arena last year, and we ate $70,000, right? The final cost that came out.
Total, no, it's 140, did we hear?
It was over.
I can't remember.
James already left, so.
Well, anyhow, we know that we almost paid double that price when it all came out in the wash. And I think the Dodgers owe us some respect to come here and sit and see if they can work this out. And so I'm officially asking the Dodgers to come out to our committee meeting and sit with us and talk to us about this issue and not stonewall us. And I don't appreciate them not showing up.
Well, they have spring training and they're in another state, so I just want to let you know.
I can tell you there are people that don't go to spring training that work with the
I don't think they were
Dodgers.
stonewalling us. I think they didn't believe there was going to be any specific action as far as any city money going towards it. Mr. Bruce?
One thing, there's two things I was wondering about is that, are we in consensus that the city's not going to fund this? I mean, is
Do
that?
not have the money now,
Okay,
no.
All right. The other side of it is that I think we can keep it open and keep talking with them, but in reality, we're working at cross purposes with them because for the people you bring there on the bus, they don't get parking. So why would they be interested in you having a bus? Because they get significant amount of money on the parking. So the issue is, if I were the Dodgers, I'd rather get the parking money than give you money to bring people on a bus.
I
mean,
think
that's
they,
just-
I think they find that the traffic, that what they want to do is, they actually want both, but they.
I know,
want
but the thing is,
people
with the
to-
traffic, if you've been there recently and it takes you an hour to get out, you generally will stay in there and buy their goods. So why, I mean, so the whole purpose of this athletic stuff is to keep you at the stadium as long as they can, because you'll buy that extra Dodger dog, you'll get another hat. That's why they have concerts and fireworks after a game, to keep you there. But they have no interest in cutting their parking revenue.
Well, I would say this, some years ago, and I don't know exactly, we did initiate a tax on parking. And so I'm sure the Dodgers pay a significant amount on tax on parking. If we were really novel, what I would do is just say to identify, and Madam City Attorney, I know you just spoke, maybe you could add to the record there. There's one thing we could do. They pay a tax. What if we identified in that
Well,
tax?
They don't pay the tax. The parkers pay the tax.
I got it,
They
but
charge it.
No. I understand that. They collect that tax,
Your
and
name
then
is
we
correct?
pay it.
Oh, Shelley Smith, Assistant City Attorney. Thank you.
A patron of the arts, by the way. Okay, so I'm just saying, is there a way to figure it out, to say with that, what do you think they generate from their parking tax up there? And then identify partial of that funds to do it. They do pay taxes.
But it's also the other fact is that low-income people can get on a bus, easily get to the game, pay the ticket for the game, and have a good time. That's why the buses are a valuable asset to the Dodgers. It increases
If you
their
were worried about
attendance.
low-income people, you'd look at the price of their tickets, and you'd realize that's.
Well, I think there's some tickets that are available. I think we're making assumptions based on not having the full knowledge. I would say if we were doing our job, and to say that there is a 30% tax or
10%.
10% tax on parking. Okay, 10% on parking. So that we should know how much revenue that comes to the city, and let's say they pay in that tax. I'm just guessing because I'm saying there's about 18,000 spaces there. I'm just guessing from reading. I'm knowing there's a significant amount. Maybe we could find out what that is and then see if there's any way we'd want to identify that. Or the thing that I was going to ask is at some time in the future, and I know this is the time, whether it's the Hollywood Bowl or whether it's the Greek Theater or whether it's the Coliseum or whether it's the Dodger Stadium or Staples, when they raise their prices for parking, that they fix in whatever the cost is to us. We also pay for their traffic control, for neighborhood mitigation. If they raise their parking rates in the future, that they figure out what our costs are so that we could recoup that. I think that's the way to try to do that somehow, all those facilities, and treat them equal. And then make sure that we provide the services for them, whether it's transit or whether it is the specialists like Tommy Plummer and others who do such a great job at special events. The coning, the crews that cone, is that what do they call their special events? So the special events, and I'm just saying, when they come around to raise the rent, we try to recover it. thought.
Yeah, the existing
Okay.
Parking tax
Yeah.
that we have comes to the general fund.
So I'll work on my side, you work on your side. Okay.
Item number 4.
Item number 4 is a DOT report relative to a follow-up report on transportation improvements funded by the Ventura Coina Boulevard Corridor Specific Plan.
Good afternoon. Sean Hyrie with the department. This is a follow-up to a report we brought before your committee almost 7-8 months ago, where you had asked us to come back with a plan to spend the funds collected on the Ventura Boulevard specific plan. We came back with some short-term improvements and some long-range improvements or approaches. We are reporting back today on our schedule for delivery of the short-term improvements, which total about $3.2 million. A good portion of those improvements are signal upgrades and interconnect and communication system upgrades for Ventura Corridor. There were also about 12 or 13 intersections where we proposed left turn signals to be installed. There were 3 or 4 intersection widening proposals and a sidewalk improvement. So today I have here Varej Janoyan from our ATSAC design construction group to report back on the timing of the signal upgrade improvements and the left turn signalization. And I'm here to report back on the intersection widening aspect. We came back with a cost estimate and a proposal for widening 3 locations along Ventura Boulevard. We have designed those plans, and they're being basically Bureau of Engineering is performing the civil engineering design and cost estimate. Now that our initial cost estimate was just that initial cost estimate from us, but Bureau of Engineering is the one that will come back with a detailed cost estimate. So that may cause us to come back and adjust the kind of funding allocation for those improvements. The other thing is that some of the community groups have opposed some of those widening proposals. So once we get our funding, our design completed by Bureau of Engineering, we're going to have to go back and work with those communities and neighborhood councils. And
where was that they have opposed that widening?
I think it's Tampa and Ventura that was specifically opposed.
What in Ventura?
Tampa.
Tampa?
Right.
No. Okay. Kathy, if you want to fill out a card, I'll make sure you can say something too. Go ahead.
Once we are done with our work, we have to go back and kind of gauge the community, explain our project, and see what the concerns are, and then come back and report back to the committee and get direction from the council to see which way you want us to go on that. The sidewalk is a different issue. We had allocated $300,000 for installation of a sidewalk where there isn't any right now. And the issue we
Where's
have...
that? I mean, Ventura Boulevard's along
That's
70
near
miles.
Colfax. It's about 300 feet
Okay, good.
in front of the car dealerships. We have designed...
The councilwoman of the 2nd District support it?
I think so.
So get it done before she becomes controller and you'll do better.
I would love to. The problem is that we don't have the right-of-way. So right now we are getting help from the neighborhood council and our Bureau of Engineering right-of-way people to make contact with those property owners and see if they would dedicate the right-of-way or give us an easement so we can build a sidewalk. Because currently, even though we have the money on design, the right-of-way we control is kind of in the middle of nowhere between the street and the sidewalk, which nobody will use. So we're making progress on that, but we haven't come to a final.
Well, I think our office is working with you too and letting
Right.
So that would be great. And do you have any timeline on when you think those right-of-way issues will be resolved?
I couldn't say because it really depends on the property owners if they're going to cooperate or not. They have pushed back their fence, so the right-of-way is out there. They just haven't officially dedicated the right-of-way so we can build a sidewalk.
Okay. Well, we'll work on that. We'll just work on
Yeah.
that further. And just a little other is what's the timing for the intersection improvements? I know you're doing some of the design.
Varej Janoyan with the department. We're planning to do all the improvements in-house, so like Sean said, the signal improvements, we estimate $2.1 million out of the $3.1 that was set aside as part of this council action. Back in January, we requested $150,000 for staff design, so council authorized that. So right now, we're scheduling to do all the designs in-house between now and the end of the calendar year, and then go into construction first thing January of 10 and be complete within 6 months.
I don't know if you all have any questions. If not, I was going to ask Kathy to come on up.
Yeah, I just think we should continue to inform the public, listen to their concerns. Also, sometimes they make decisions today that have an impact in the future, so I think we should have a good discussion so they lay it all out. I do believe intersection improvement is real important to assign right away on that. But Madam Chair, I'd ready to support this, but I know you have a public comment.
Yeah. And there was over 5 million, right, in the fund, and this is 2.1 of the 5 million?
There's about 6.5 million total. Some of it is already earmarked for some project improvements, about 3 million here. So we have about 3 million left still.
And how are you going to move forward on that other 3 million, or what's the plan?
Well, that's a separate issue. We still need to figure out what the council would wish us to do. We have two different approaches. One is that the plan is reaching its horizon year. So it doesn't mean that the plan will expire. It will just continue as is if nothing is done. But the plan could be updated, although it has its own problems because we don't have enough money allocated for the update of the plan. And there are other issues.
Update of a plan cost?
Typically about $1 million. But the way this plan is written, we only have access to 10% of all funds collected in 1 year, in that year, which means for some years could be nothing. Whereas in other plans, it's 10% of total for administration, where we can use those funds for updating the plan. The other approach, which is what our updated report is going to propose, is that if the council will approve allowing the general managers of DOT and city planning to substitute projects instead of the what's proposed on the plan, which is basically identifying some locations for improvement, but not specifying what improvement can be made. So we are kind of stuck in a box here. But if that permission is granted, that also is kind of subject to city attorney's interpretation of what's allowed and what's not allowed by the plan. So we're kind of waiting for direction on how to proceed with the rest of the funds and the future for long-term improvements. But currently, what we know we can do is in our short-term improvements.
Maybe what we can do, and I'll look to you, Claire, is to get together with the representatives from the other council offices that are including
And the
Tom
planning deputies.
And whomever,
Mr.
yeah,
Weiss,
whomever,
Mr. Zine.
the four of us,
Yeah.
as well as the neighborhood council reps, and kind of talk about what the next steps are and what our options are. Would be great on the remainder of those funds, and any other structural changes needed to give us as much flexibility as possible.
The upside would be that we could work with neighborhood councils and get community input into what to do and how to spend the rest of the money.
Right.
Yes. That the community
So
feels.
I think we could have with everybody in the room, kind of, here's what we're allowed to do now, here are the options, and what we would have to do to change that if we needed to. So.
Right.
Okay. Kathy, do you want to come up, and then I might have questions for you.
Kathy Deladani. I'm president of the Ventura Coina Specific Plan Review Board. As far as, I don't think Sean has it quite right, because I know the Tarzana Ventura widening is it's totally supported by the community. It'll alleviate a lot of traffic problems as is. Woodland Hills, the other widening at Topanga, there was a flip-flop on that where originally they said yes and then they said no, but I've already with the council, with Councilman Zine's office, I've already spoken to them about the possibility of overriding that because there's also safety issues there and backing up into residential neighborhoods. And by adding that extra traffic lane, it'll really help that particular intersection. So that's
Topanga. Okay.
That's a Topanga.
Okay.
The Tampa one is fine.
Tampa one's fine. Okay.
Yeah. And as far as I still keep reiterating is that the Plan Review Board is there to help facilitate the working together with the various communities. And certainly that's really our function in overseeing how the money is, what plans are for money, what ideas that we have, et cetera.
So you will be key part of that meeting we have then?
Yeah.
That we just talked
Great.
about? Okay. Thank you. Thanks for your service on that, I know.
Okay, thank you.
I think what I wanted to talk to you was about PRB, so that reminded me, I saw you earlier. Okay. So I think the action item would be to receive and file, correct?
Great. I'll move.
Approved.
Next item.
Item number 5 is the Gruel-Weezer motion relative to the DOT to report on its ability to meet the 2012 deadline for traffic signal synchronization.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members. First, I'd like to start by saying that the department's very proud of the results of the audit that the Controller Laura Chick did on the ADSEC program. It's a very large, extensive, ongoing program with a lot of facets to it, and it was thoroughly investigated, and I think the results show that we have a well-managed and well-run program. I have looked at the motion that you introduced, and it's going to take us some time to come up with the answers to some of the questions, especially the first one on meeting the 2012 deadline for the signal synchronization, and I can elaborate on that a little bit. As you know, the state...
You don't have the time ready to report now?
No, this
Okay.
is an initial hearing.
It's just hearing, what we want to do is
Good.
adopt the motion, asking them to come back as to where we are on
Oh,
our
great.
traffic
I'm
signal.
preparing for a school district meeting
Yes.
before. Can I be dismissed?
You may be dismissed.
Early from class?
Yes, you can.
Since my good classmates came late to school, they could hang in there?
Well, we can vote on it now, Tom. We can do the meeting.
You can leave without identifying us as being late.
But I love you guys. I do.
You don't have to say we were late to leave.
Goodbye, Tom.
Then have a report back and see what yeah, okay. Go ahead.
Okay. The state suspended all, well, let me back up. The department secured $150 million of state Prop 1B money to complete the ADSEC program, that as part of that initiative that was passed by the voters. But because of some trouble with the state budget, the bonds were unable to be sold, and bonds are what fund the Prop 1B construction part of the ADSEC program. So the state suspended all expenditures against the Prop 1B in December of last year. And eventually the state government got the budget passed in the last month, but that has not yet resulted in bonds being sold and money being released again. So we're still under instructions from the state to not spend any Prop 1B money or not enter any new contracts to spend the Prop 1B money. So, and we've gotten mixed answers. We've heard as little as 3 months possibly until the money will be flowing again, to as many as 18 months before the money is flowing again. And that's a wide range.
How much did we already get from 1B?
We awarded one contract for $8 million, and that's the only one that we had in place prior to the stop spending
And will we
order.
get reimbursed for that $8 million, or we have
Yes.
to wait until the...
That's in the clear. We'll be reimbursed for that one. And then
Let me just ask you, my understanding is if you do not have the money already, you're in the same boat as waiting for any new expenditures.
well, the Prop 1B is completely reimbursed, so if you hadn't awarded a contract, then you cannot ask for authorization to award your
I know, but the fact, what you said on 1B, what they advise us is if you got authorization and they haven't given you the money, that there's no guarantee the money's going to come any faster than if you were submitting another project. That's why we've had to come up with this general fund supplement, because it's something in the neighborhood of all of these projects that are 95 of them are coming through with different bonding funding. But they advise if you have not gotten the money, you have a 3-month to an 18-month wait. That's why the general fund is taking a hit.
Yeah, so we're not spending any of the money because we're not hitting the general fund with this.
Yeah.
We are continuing with our design efforts because that's not funded by Prop 1B. Prop 1B only funded the construction part of ADSEC. So we are preparing our designs, getting them ready to go out, so when we are authorized to proceed, we can do that.
I want to say I really appreciate that, because that's really proactive thinking on your part. And then if the money flows, you can go right and flush it right into the system.
That's right.
Great.
So we've got plans rolled up. The delay, though, the implementation because obviously we don't start the construction, we won't finish it. Right now, it's not on the critical path to the 2012 deadline, but if it persists for 18 months, it's going to be on the critical path. But we're okay now. One other thing I wanted to mention was the MTA board did enter into an agreement to purchase one of the bonds so that the receipt ADSAC program could move forward, and that one will be reimbursed. So, but that's the only one, and that was a special action by the MTA board, and I don't think that it's likely they do that again for the rest of them because that ties up a lot of their money on an unknown situation. But we're hopeful that with the state budget in place and the bond ratings going up, that eventually the treasurer for the state will move forward and sell the bonds.
And can any of the economic stimulus dollars be used for this purpose?
No, we didn't. Two reasons. One, we did not apply for them because this is already technically a funded project. We have a letter on file from the state that says you will be reimbursed at some point. They just can't tell us at what point because it was a voter enacted. The other reason is the ADSAC program is not bid to the federal guidelines because the money that's used for it is not federal, which means we could not use federal money on the construction projects that we're doing because it would be not in compliance. So we're not using any economic stimulus money to supplement the 1B shortfall.
So I think what we would do, if you have any questions, but just adopt the motion and have a report back in 60 days.
Yes, that would be fine.
Thank you again for doing what you're doing.
You're welcome. We're trying to keep it moving.
Send it on to the next committee.
Any other questions?
Miss Rita Robertson wants to give us a speech.
No. She's no. Okay. Great. I think with that, the meeting is adjourned. 3 o'clock.
Moved.
Got you out in time.
Welcome back.
Thank you.